Hey, football fans, welcome back to another episode of Lions Latest, the show where we gather around and talk about the greatest team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. I'm your host, Bryan Hanes. We have some good topics to talk about today and some stuff that's been going on with some of the other sports broadcasting stations. So let's just jump straight into the video. Starting off, we're talking about ESPN's predictions on the Lions. They think we're going to regress. Some people think we'll be fine. Let's talk about it. ESPN's Barnwell said the Lions went 7-2 in one-score games, but again, they weren't as reliant on narrow victories as the Chiefs. Detroit's schedule will be tough, and that's nothing new for the Lions. They faced the league's sixth toughest slate a year ago, so moving up to the second toughest shouldn't be too overwhelming. Ryan Clark commented that the running back strength that the Lions and the offense still has, along with the weapons we've retained, are going to still be able to execute at the same level as we did last year, and that the defense is quote unquote retooled. Not to mention that they promoted from within on the defense. So, this is an example right here of what kind of people are seeing, what kind of the fans are seeing, right? Is that no, I don't think there's going to be this huge regression. I don't think there's going to be this huge dip in production because one of our play callers left. I think it's the opposite, really. I think the team learns when you're in these, scenarios where you're this good and where it's getting down to the playoffs. The team has been together for so long now that they're starting to learn how to win on their own, right? That there's situations where they need to just go and make good plays. And I think we have playmakers on our team, which is the difference between, a coach that leaves and then the team just straight nosedive, or a coach that leaves and the team's able to retain that same level of production because we have playmakers, right? And we're not just solely relying on those play callers. And then others say that the coordinator's leaving is going to be a serious impact. Coach Dan Campbell lost a total of 8 assistants following the Lions franchise best 15-2 campaign last season, but he says that he's been impressed with the coordinator so far, and that we really don't have anything to worry about. We've had multiple analysts as well say that the Lions are in good hands offensively. John Gruden came to some of the practices and he was just talking about how impressed he was at the level of production Goff was still having in these practices, that John Morton is a genius play calling wise, and that his offensive passing scheme with our weapons and with Jared Goff is our, super productive pocket passer, it's just going to click really well. So I have faith in all these people who are saying the good stuff. I think it's a lot easier in this case to say that the Lions are going to regress because we're losing 2 of our coordinators, right? I think it's a pretty easy way to say, well, they're missing Ben Johnson, who was just an elite play caller, and they're losing their guy in Aaron Glenn. So naturally they'll take a dive this year, but I don't necessarily think that's going to be the entire case for this team. I think we will see our playmakers continue to make plays, and we shouldn't have too much to worry about in regards of our players, except for depth in certain positions. But I think our players are going to be just fine, and I think that's what I'm really excited to see this year, is how we still produce without the crazy wacky calls from Ben Johnson, who, I will give credit, was a big part of our success. So let's talk about, that's kind of leading into our second topic. What are we going to have to watch then against this preseason game against Texas to see what we're really up against and what we've really been able to do in a play caller sense, right? So it's Lions versus Texans at 1 p.m. Lions are favored to win this one, or 1.5 points. Looking for rookie receivers is going to be the big thing with this game, right? Tesla has been continued to produce, and then keep an eye out for Jaden Higgins. Tesla has continued to impress. We should see more targets to him on this one. Hopefully that's going to increase his yards per game, because we're still seeing the touchdowns and the targets and stuff, but I just want to keep seeing yards for him. Don't be surprised if you see him in the corner of the end zone at any point this game. I think we're gonna end up seeing him in the end zone a few times, especially with Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen has just kind of figured out that once they get into the red zone, if he can just chuck it up to Isaac Tesla and just give him that slight advantage over the shorter cornerback, he's going to be able to make a lot of good stuff happen, and that's what he's continued to do. I think that's why he's really good on this team, and I think that's why he's going to be a great fit for Jared Goff and kind of that scheme we got going on offense. We talked about it last episode, having the slack guy, the speedster, and then the contested catcher who you can just rely on in those really tough, tight situations down in the end zone. So don't be surprised if you see something from him like that. I could totally see it happening. And then Jaden Higgins, where did he come from, right? He's likely to compete for the wide receiver 2 role in Houston, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get it following Tank Dell's injury. Could be a key fantasy player to keep your eyes on this season, guys, if you're still drafting. Higgins' contract is fully guaranteed, making him the first second-round pick in NFL history to receive such a deal. And then let's look at his stats real quick. His last season with Iowa State, he had 87 receptions for 1,183 yards. He averaged 13.6 yards a catch. He had 9 touchdowns, and his longest reception was 39 yards. His whole career, over the course of 4 years, he had 227 receptions for 3,317 yards. He averaged 4.6 yards a catch and had 28 touchdowns, with his longest being 80 yards back in 2022. So this guy, I'm not trying to root for the enemy here, guys, but this guy, he's going to be something great, especially with him being able to take that wide receiver 2 spot pretty early in his career here because of that injury with Tank Dell. I think CJ Stroud is going to be able to find this guy a whole bunch, and if he plays this Saturday, keep an eye on him because he's going to have a huge impact on this team. I can already tell. And hey, he's a fantasy guy to go after. I got him in some of my leagues. I'm taking a shot on this guy. I think he definitely has a chance here to be a solid flex or backup receiver to guys who need that in their league. And then let's talk about Hendon Hooker. Can he hold on right now? We've talked about Hendon Hooker a whole lot recently, and I think for this game we're going to have to see him make a lead or hold on to a lead pretty substantially in order to get something going, or else I think he's good as gone, guys. I think this is necessarily his last chance. I thought maybe the Miami game was just going to be it for him, but they're keeping him in as wide receiver 3 here. I'm sure he'll get some time in the second half or the first half to do something. And if he can get a couple scores for us, not force any turnovers, that might be really good for him, but he's going to have to do something pretty crazy in order to impress us at this point, guys. And the front office is starting to definitely look more towards Kyle Allen. We've noticed since he's moved up on the depth chart, and we've just seen better production from him in general. And then finally, flags. Flags is something I'm definitely going to be watching this game. It was really tough to watch the last preseason game because there was a penalty every 30 seconds. Got to do a better job of lowering our penalty rates, keep making sure we're moving down the field and not going the opposite way after a big gain. There was a lot of instances where like Craig Reynolds would break free for a 20-yard run, and then nope, one of the receivers was holding. It was like, ugh. And it happened. It just felt like it was happening every single time. In the last game against the Dolphins, there were a total of 22 accepted penalties, with the Lions flagged 13 times and the Dolphins 9. So going into double digits is no good. And this made the game a penalty fest. Absolutely. According to some sports people, they called it a penalty fest. It definitely was, and it was definitely hard to watch at some points. We just got to make sure we're not doing that too much. And I understand it's the second, third team offense. We're going to make mistakes. It shouldn't be something too much to worry about when we actually get into the season. But still, I am a little worried, and hopefully we just clean that all up, like Dan Campbell likes to say. We just brush that dust right off moving into the second game. That's what I have to say about that. Let me know what you guys think. What is the big thing to look about in this Texans game, if it even matters at all? Next, we are going to talk about some guys you should take in this draft over some other guys who you maybe have been brainwashed into thinking. So this one's definitely my take. First, I'm going to say Gibbs over Saquon. I may be biased. I may be drinking from the Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid, but it seems like a lock to me, and let me tell you why. In 2024, Saquon Barkley impressively accumulated 355.3 PPR fantasy points. This made him the running back 1 in PPR points per game and running back 2 in total fantasy points for the season, according to Draft Sharks. He finished with 2,005 rushing yards, 278 receiving yards, and 15 total touchdowns. So it's pretty good. He was definitely the man last year, let's be honest. But let's talk about Ja. In his rookie year, 2024 season, Jahmyr Gibbs was a strong fantasy performer, especially in PPR formats. He finished as the running back 3 in standard leagues with 310.9 fantasy points and had the most fantasy points among running backs in PPR leagues with 362.9. Without David Montgomery, Gibbs also saw a significant increase in touches in fantasy production, averaging 32.6 fantasy points per game in the last 3 weeks of the season. What? However, even with Montgomery in the lineup, Gibbs is still a top fantasy running back. Let's be honest, guys. He still averages 18.9 games per week in weeks 1 through 15. That PPR stat is only going to go much higher for Jahmyr Gibbs as well. Let's think about that. We've talked about John Morton, the passing game. John Morton's offense includes an increase in the dual back set as well, which is going to end up giving the running backs an increase in getting involved in the passing game. We're going to see a lot more passes to backs this year. Gibbs is also listed as the running back one on the depth chart now. So those last 3 week stats where he was going 30 plus is just going to be way more prevalent this season. And then finally, the Madden curse. I feel like that's just self-explanatory. Christian McCaffrey continued to prove that stat correct last year, and I never hope for injuries, but I'm just saying, Saquon, you were on the cover of Madden. I would be a little worried. That's just what it is, right? But I definitely think Jahmyr Gibbs is only getting better, and he's only getting faster and better at hitting gaps. And so I don't see him going down. I only see his production going up. And with the season he had last year, and now he's going to get an increase of receptions. And if that's a point per reception in your league and not a half point, I mean, even if it is a half point, that's going to be a crazy amount of free points mixed in with his touchdown runs and his big bursts of yards, which if you have bonuses on, is even going to even be more beneficial to you. I think Saquon is still going to be crazy. I'm not saying he's not a top 5 pick still, but in my case, I would absolutely take Gibbs over Saquon. I just have a lot of faith in him this year, and I think we're going to just see a crazy breakout season, something absolutely insane this year from him. That's just my take. And then the second one I want to talk about is St. Brown over Justin Jefferson. Now, hear me out. This is not a comparison of who is the better receiver overall, because in my opinion, I'd probably put Jay Jettas above St. Brown in this case. Unfortunately, I like St. Brown more, but I think Justin Jefferson is just still a better receiver. He's insane at running routes. However, I see St. Brown's production this season going crazy. Some people think that other teams got St. Brown figured out this season in terms of passing defense, but I would disagree. He will be used so much due to the scheme we've already talked about. And with JMO getting more reps, we're going to see St. Brown being like uncovered on some plays. There's going to be double teams to JMO, which is going to allow that slot area for St. Brown to be so free on so many plays. He's going to be a PPR nightmare this year, guys. In 2024, St. Brown had a strong fantasy season, finishing as a top wide receiver with 201.2 fantasy points, averaging 11.8 points a game. He recorded 115 receptions for 1,263 yards and 12 touchdowns, and his best performance was in that Week 11 game against the Jags. In the 2024 NFL season for Justin Jefferson, however, who also had a very strong fantasy performance, accumulating 317.5 PPR fantasy points. He finished overall wide receiver 2 in both total points and points per game. On average, Justin Jefferson recorded 103 receptions for 1,533 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns in 17 games. This made him the overall wide receiver 2 in total points and 4th in points per game, according to 4for4. I'm sure Justin Jefferson will still be fine this year, guys. I'm not saying don't draft Justin Jefferson, but he's got that semi-rookie quarterback and J.J. McCarthy. He doesn't convince me yet. I know the Sam Darnold thing happened and it was like, oh, Justin Jefferson can do it with anybody. But Sam Darnold's obviously, he's got more experience in the league. He knew to just feed Justin Jefferson on every play. I don't see that being as prevalent and as consistent with J.J. McCarthy in this season. I see St. Brown's upside just honestly being higher than Jefferson's this year. And for that reason, I'm going to say go with St. Brown. But honestly, you can't go wrong with either of these guys. It's really just either or at that point. I just think the upside for St. Brown's going to be better because he's got Jared Goff. He's got that established connection. And I think Justin Jefferson will still be fine PPR-wise because he's Justin Jefferson. And if J.J. McCarthy doesn't know who to throw it to, he's just going to chuck it up to him and say he's down there somewhere either way. So that's just my take on that. Let me know what you guys think. Would you say anything differently? Is there a player you would take above any of these guys? Let me know down in the comments below. We're going to talk about our last topic real quick. The Ben Johnson beef. It's kind of silly, but let's get into it. There are plenty of storylines this year with the NFC North Ben Johnson beef between the Lions and the Bears. The Bears made Ben Johnson the head coach last January, and the two sides have kind of exchanged barbs leading into this first season as division rivals, or not first season as division rivals, but this first season with him on the team as the head coach. The most recent quips came from two of Johnson's former players, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs, and they commented that the Bears' plays look similar to theirs in a 38-0 victory over the Buffalo Bills on Sunday night in the preseason. But Johnson wasn't one to let things slide after he sent a message to them Tuesday morning. St. Brown and Gibbs made the remarks this was the day after they made the remarks on the FanDuel's Up and Adams show. Johnson got his chance for a rebuttal finally when host Kay Adams asked about the Lions star comments. Johnson admitted that he had used the game plan similar to what they used at the Lions, but that things will change when the regular season begins. He said that this is the same game plan from the preseason I've done for the last 4 years, but so the plays should probably look the same. He said, we've dusted off an old playbook and the guys are looking or are going to out there and executing on a high level right now. Once we get into the season, we'll have a little bit more fun. And then there's, just obviously they go back and forth a little bit. Detroit's fans are salty, all that good stuff. And we know that Ben Johnson here was insane. He helped us finish fourth in 3 years with 1,478 points as an offensive coordinator. And then, we know he was absolutely a big part of the team, but I still, like I said earlier in the video, I still think we'll be fine without him. This beef back and forth, I'm not really sure, guys. I don't think it's anything to really look at. Any of the stuff that have kind of come out as stories has been cleaned up and cleared up between players and former coach. So I don't think there's anything really there. I think it'll be a cool little rivalry this year. Lions going after their old guy, Ben Johnson trying to go against his old club. It'll be definitely cool to see, and I'm definitely excited for those games, and I hope you guys are too. With that being said, we are out of time today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Lions Latest. If you made it to this point in the video, tell me what you think about my fantasy takes and who would you put over who and why. Let me know down in the comments. Make sure you guys like and subscribe as well as ringing the bell so you never miss a video here. I will see you guys in the next video. You have a great rest of your day.